Hello everybody, my name is Kyle and this is PC Tech and Gaming, and today we are doing an unboxing of the Gigabyte Z490 Aorus Elite motherboard. This motherboard is the LGA 1200 socket, so it supports the new 10th generation Intel Core CPUs. And as I mentioned in a previous video, I'm going to be building a new editing system, which I did also mention was going to be an AMD Ryzen 9 3900X system. But I'm also in need, because this is a PC Tech channel and I endeavour in the future to make videos regarding benchmarking of new hardware, video cards, etc. I need a good system as a benchmark system too. So I'm in need of two computers pretty much to help in the running of this tech channel. So you'll see here we have the front of the box here. Looks fairly stock standard with Gigabyte Aorus graphics. Z chipset is a Z490 and Intel Core 10th gen processors. So that's pretty stock standard. On the back of the motherboard box, and that's our I/O here along the back of the motherboard. On the sides of the boxes we have, that's pretty stock standard, a bit of marketing speak. On this side of the box, same again. On this side of the box we have our specs here along the side. And on the top side of the box we have just some general dot points about the motherboard. So, yeah. Okay, so now that we've looked at what's on the outside of the box, let's finally get inside the box. Okay, so let's crack this puppy open. I'm going to open it this way so you guys can see first. Bear in mind, I have not opened this motherboard before myself. So this is a true unboxing. This is my first time seeing it, as well as your first time seeing it potentially. Yeah, so let's get to it. So I'll open the box, and yep, fairly stock standard. We have our motherboard directly on top here, so we'll get that one out. Oh, it comes in a little, it's in its cradle here. So we have the Gigabyte G connector, which is for the power LED, power switch, reset switch, etc. A nice handy little thing where you plug all those little cables into this, and then this as one connector onto the motherboard. Pretty handy. Motherboards have been doing that for quite a while now, at least the last 5 or 6 years, but it's always nice to see some that's still included, whereas on some cheaper motherboards or certain brands, they're still not doing it after 5 or 6 years, so that's good to have. We have our Gigabyte warranty card, which is good, because hey, a warranty is always handy with anything. We have our multilingual installation guide, so that's there if you need that. We have our, here we go, our instruction booklet. Oh, and something fell out the bottom there. Just pick that up. Okay, oh, see, case badge, we'll have a look at that in a sec. So that's our instruction booklet for the Z490 Elite and Z490 Elite AC, which must be the Wi-Fi version of this board. So AC referring to the type of Wi-Fi it has. And just stock standard information. So we have that. We have our case badge, so we can let everybody know that there's an Aorus motherboard inside. We have our driver disc. Of course, these days, best practice would be to go to the Gigabyte website and download the latest drivers, BIOS, etc. And we have our two SATA cables. 2 right angle SATA cables. No, hang on a minute. Yes, we have 4 SATA cables. There's 2 in each packet. We have a right angle and a straight SATA cable in each packet. So that's for hooking up any hard drive and or 2.5 inch SSD you might have. So this is everything that comes in the box. And of course we have our motherboard, which we'll look at in just a moment. So through the magic of camera editing, we will clear the table of accessories. And here we are! The motherboard and the accessories got. Don't you just love that magic? Anyway, on to the motherboard itself. So we'll pull the motherboard out of the enclosure, this little cardboard cradle that it's got here. And here we are. This is our motherboard in question. Looks quite fancy, doesn't it? With its black and silver, it's black mainboard and silver accents. So we'll get this motherboard out of the anti-static bag here and have a closer look at it. As you can see, it's sealed, never been opened. Always good to see. I'll just put that there carefully. Now that we've got it open, I'm going to use the motherboard box as a bit of a place to sit it. And here we are. This is our Gigabyte Aorus motherboard. Looks like it's got some bit of RGB down here. It says team up, fight on. So it's going to be interesting to see how it looks when it's powered up. But yeah, this is our motherboard. So we'll start from the back I/O here. You guys can see that better than I can at the moment. Let me have a bit of a look here. So these are our USB 2.0 ports, a HDMI out port. I'm not quite sure what version of HDMI that is as of yet. I'll have to look that up. We have our USB 3.2 Type A ports and the USB 3.2 Type A BIOS port for installing a new BIOS on this motherboard. We have 2 more USB 3.2 Type A's, 2 more again here, our 2.5 gigabit LAN, SB diff out. I mean, I don't know who uses that these days, but it's there. And our mic line in, line out, audio, etc. ports. So that's our rear I/O. So now we'll have a look at the motherboard itself. So we have obviously our VRM here, the 12+1 digital design, our LGA 1200 socket with the plastic protector plate in there that will remain in there until I install the CPU. As I mentioned earlier, I do have a Core i9 10900K slated to inhabit this board, so I'll be doing a video on that at a future date of building that PC up, so stay tuned for that one. Our DDR4 DIMM slots that are reinforced with a bit of metal, it seems. And then starting from the top of the board down, we'll go over what it has. So we have our CPU power sockets here. We have a 8-pin and a 4-pin. You would definitely be plugging all of that in if you're going to be doing a bit of overclocking. We have our CPU OPT port, which is an optional port, and our CPU fan port. So if you're using an AIO and you've got a cable for all the fans on the AIO, and you've got a cable for the pump. You would plug both of these into there. And then we have here our... Just having a look at what these other two are up here. These must be our RGB or addressable RGB ports. Of course, there's more information on exactly what all of these are in the user instruction manual. I'm just having a look to see what I can see from the outside looking in, being the fact that I've never looked at the manual yet, as you guys saw me take it out of the box. And we have our normal ATX power connector for the motherboard, a fan connector for the motherboard. We have our front USB here, front USB 3.2. Then we have our front USB-C. If you are lucky enough to have front USB-C on your case, which still a lot of cases these days don't really have that unless you're buying premium top end. Unfortunately, the case that I'm putting this motherboard into would not have front USB-C, but I don't know, unless I change my decision on what case I put this in, but yeah, we'll get to that when we come to that. Coming down here, we have our I'm not entirely sure what these two are here. We have a SATA power connector and a smaller connector. Yeah, so we have a SATA power connector and a smaller connector. I'm not sure what the smaller connector is for. And then of course along the top here we have our SATA 6 gigabit ports. I'll just turn the motherboard around so you guys can see that. So we have a SATA along here, and then we'll put the board up this way now. I can see a little bit better, and hopefully you guys can see a bit better. Okay, and then down here we have our front panel connector, so that's where that little attachment that I got out of the box earlier will go. Once you've plugged in all your front panel connectors to that, and then that goes in here. We have another fan plug here for any case fans. We have two more front USB 2.0 connector plugs. And then we have an SP1 TPM small port. Again, I'm not sure what that does exactly yet. Sorry, there's a few ports on here that I'm not too sure what they do, because this is my first time looking at the board as it is yours. So I apologise for that. But and then moving up here, we have seem to have more RGB or addressable RGB headers. Front audio. And one of these things here says LED demo. Maybe an option for plugging this board in for a demo display. I think that's probably what that is actually, you know. It's you know, when you go to a trade show and you see motherboard manufacturers displaying motherboards, I think this might be a power connector to have all the RGB light up when it's in a showcase. Interesting. And then going across the expansion ports of the motherboard, we have our PCIe X1 slot here, our M.2 with thermal guard slot here, our PCIe X16 slot that I think only supports PCIe X4, as in there's 4 lanes connected to this slot, not 16, despite it being a 16 slot. Then we have our second M.2 slot with thermal guard, so you put your M.2 drives here and here. By unscrewing the thermal guard, inserting drive, then replacing thermal guard on top. BIOS CMOS battery, our primary PCIe X16 slot for the graphics card, that is Gen 3 compliant, has forward compatibility for 4.0 support according to the motherboard box. As I said, I'm not sure how that will work in the future. We'll have to keep our ears to the ground on that one. Then we have our final top PCIe X1 slot here, above the graphics card, which might come in handy for plugging in like a Wi-Fi card or a Wi-Fi Bluetooth card or whatever other X1 peripheral card that you may need. It's always handy to have one above the graphics card, because if you're running two graphics cards here, in this slot and this slot, it's going to pretty much block off pretty much everything else, including potentially this X1 slot down here, depending on how big the graphics card is. And then it seems we have a sticker here, limited functionality check manual. It looks like there's a third M.2 slot here, but it says limited functionality check manual. So it might be that it's only got two PCIe lanes hooked up to it, or there's something a bit amiss, but it's definitely not a main M.2 port by the look of it. I think you're meant to inhabit these first before you use that one. Oh, and I did forget to mention one other thing. We do have our amp up audio Aorus Z490 codec chip up here, and the audio capacitors here. So this is our Gigabyte Aorus Z490 Aorus Elite gaming motherboard with the LGA 1200 socket for Intel 10th gen processors. It's quite a specky board, and I'm looking forward to using it and overclocking with it coming up when I build my i9 system with the new i9 10900K. Really impressed with this, I gotta say. It's a very well built board, and it looks the part. Hopefully it performs the part. Anyway, that's enough from me. I hope you enjoyed this unboxing as much as I did. It's always a gratifying thing opening new hardware. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, hit like. If you didn't like it, hit dislike. If you like the content from the channel, please subscribe, because there'll be lots more like it. Plan to do some more unboxings. I've got 2 to 3 more computer build videos coming up soon. I've got more videos coming up with my retro hardware as well. I know we are a very new PC tech channel, but I hope to grow it going forward into the future, and I definitely appreciate any support you could give, and yeah, I hope to bring you great content as much as I possibly can. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.